None. So we'll get right into our agenda here. Okay, we have unfinished business, A 2024-096, 165 Fairway Road North. So I invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application that was deferred from our November 19th, 2024 agenda. The reason for the deferral was that we wanted to work with the applicant further on the site plan or conditional site plan approval and resolving those red line revisions that staff had. We've been working with the applicant since November, and we have come to a resolution. There's been some changes, positive changes to the site plan. The dwelling units have been reduced from 33 to 30, and some of the variances have been modified slightly, but the intent is still there. So the application before you would facilitate the development, redevelopment of that existing industrial building with an addition for 30 dwelling units. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Thank you for that. So I'm just looking to confirm that the applicant agent, if they reviewed the staff report and whether they're in support of the staff recommendation. Is anyone here to speak on that? Thank you. If you can just press the red button, speak in the microphone, and if you mind introducing yourself, please, for the committee, and then if you agree with the staff report and recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Natalie Ryan. I'm one of the architects who worked with staff to update the site plan per their recommendations, and we agree with the staff recommendations and support it.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite parties in opposition to make oral submissions, and I would like to take a note there was a late written submission that we received this morning that the committee did review, and as well as the other things that were sent before. But I see someone over here to my left that's looking to make an oral submission in opposition. So if I can ask you just to introduce yourself in the microphone, and yeah, we're willing to hear from you.
Red button. My name is Danielle Kraftchik. I did submit a written submission, however, I've come in. My property butts to the tool and die shop, as well as my parents' property and my neighbors that I submitted the written submission for. My father and I have met with the owner of the property, who, when we asked about the plans, said that he wasn't doing an addition, said he wasn't changing anything, and I tried to show him the plans and he said, no, I'm not building 33 units. I have concerns about replacing the fence. It's an existing 8-foot fence. My house sits above grade to the property. I can clearly see the parking lot as it is. So if the garbage bins are at the fence, it's at my bedroom window. I don't want to hear trucks backing up 2 times a week to come and empty garbage and have rodents and other things. I get that they're the in-ground garbage. However, the current property owner does not take care of the property as it is, did not shovel, does not mow the lawn. I can imagine garbage is going to be piled up and people dump at the apartment building and the complexes in the neighborhood as it is. I don't want to be having that right along the fence line at my bedroom and at my children's bedrooms. We also have a concern with the site visibility. If they're going to be putting only a 5-foot fence or a 6-foot fence in the plan, it's now raised to a 6-foot fence. But as it stands right now, it's an 8-foot fence. I don't know why it was 8 feet, because it was an industrial building previously, but in the comments stating that there's been no issues with the industrial building, I had said when it was a tool and die shop, they were done at 12 o'clock noon on Friday and they were gone. And if there's going to be 130 people or more residing in this building opposed to the 6 units that was tabled before, that's a big change.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions for the opposition, our guest here? Seeing none. Does the agent or applicant have any comments to make?
Not at this time, but I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions to ask of the agent or the applicant? Member Maria?
The application shows that you're deviating from the parking requirement. Fairway is a very busy road, and Thaler doesn't really have enough street parking. What is the intent for the surplus of cars that is going to be created?
There was a traffic study and a parking demand management study done along with the site plan application. And the parking demand that was calculated to be required for this site was in the amount of 19 parking spaces. We're providing 19 parking spaces with 4 additional visitor parking, as well as providing bike parking within the units. And there's lots of transit options nearby. So our expectation is that the parking demand is going to be not going to exceed what we're providing.
And the parking study was based on the 33 units?
That's correct.
One thing I would like to comment is that those are really busy roads, and I know the parking studies are typically on the conservative side. Just seeing the conditions, I don't see a lot of people biking on that road already, so I just want to make sure that it's not going to cause a lot of accidents in the future, and because people are parking when they're not supposed to be.
Any more questions for the agent or the applicant? If I'm seeing none, then that's next on. Now open up questions for staff. Member McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment. Most of the people who are opposed to things are usually based on a property standards issue as opposed to committee of adjustment. Having said that, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about property standards. I do have a question for staff, though. Is there a reason why there isn't going to be an 8-foot fence? I mean, it's residential adjacent to commercial, and normally those are 8-foot fences.
I would have to look at the site plan details. Maybe the applicant can address that question, going through the site plan process, more familiar than myself.
Redirect that question to the applicant.
The 6-foot fence is fairly typical for what we use. There's no commercial use going to be remaining on the property. It's fully residential, so it'll be residential next to residential. So the 6-foot fence is what we've proposed as a standard, but through site plan, if there's a different request made, we can work to see what works best.
And just to clarify, the site plan does show a 1.8 meter fence on the property lines.
Any more questions of city staff? If there's no more questions, I'll look for a motion on the floor. Member Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are some changes on this one from the first time we looked at it before it was deferred. There's a couple of things in here that I'm not real happy about. Whenever I see a setback of 0, and it's hard to say that that's minor. Having said that, I'm prepared to move this. I'd like to make a suggestion to staff and to the applicant that maybe an 8-foot fence be considered. It's not that much more, but it might offer some relief to the person who is concerned about this. So that's my recommendation. I'm not going, it's something that can be done at site plan. So I'm going to suggest that staff take an 8-foot fence and put it into the site plan. And having said that, I will move that this application be approved as per the staff report with the 7 conditions.
Thank you. So that's, and then with the fence then? Is that in that or not then?
The fence is just a recommendation. I don't want to make it a requirement.
Okay.
But just a suggestion that makes for good neighbors.
I'll just look for, do you have something to say then? Sorry.
Yeah, like the garbage cans, can they not be put where they are right now, beside a parking lot for the apartment building instead of butting up to a residence? Sorry, there's also gas lines and the hydro lines that are running where these garbage cans are supposed to be going in the ground.
Yeah, so that's something we can address, but maybe at this time I can open it up to the agent applicant if they have any comments regarding the location then of the garbage cans or where they're proposed.
The proposed location was based on providing the most amount of landscape space and amenity space that we could while keeping the parking amount maximized and providing that loading space that's required for the garbage pickup. Through the site plan, we'll be looking at the more technical concerns, and then through the working drawings, the technical items about the any services that are in those locations. But those are the reasons why they're located where they are.
Thank you. So there's a motion on the floor. I would need a seconder. Member Marco. So now open this up for debate. Yeah, I'll go. So go, Member Marco, go ahead.
I think the 8-foot fence idea is worth doing, if possible, given that there is the existing almost 0 meter setback. Maybe it's worth having the taller fence. It's an existing building, so changing the setback isn't necessarily feasible without demolition, and at that point I don't think the project would be feasible at all. So.
Member Bob.
A question through you, Mr. Chair, to my learned colleague, the other end of the table. Is that an amendment to my motion? Do you want to make the 8-foot mandatory? If that's a friendly motion, I'll go for that.
Can I ask the applicant how they feel about that, and staff?
Sure thing.
How does staff and the applicant feel about the 8-foot fence being required?
Staff have no concerns with that being included as a condition. It could be boarded into the recommendation such that the site plan be revised to show a 2.4 meter high fence in the location of the 1.8.
Yeah, I'll make that a friendly amendment.
Okay. Do we have to vote, just Madam Secretary, vote for that, or that's okay? All right. Any more debate? Yeah, I don't love this one. It just seems you're really trying to squeeze a lot in here, though, too. There's approval and support for it in some ways, and then a lot of opposition from the neighbors. It just seems like it's a challenging property, and with pushing it really far as abutting the neighbors, and really with a lack of parking and no real places to put cars on the street because it's such a busy street there. I don't love this application. Having a tough time with it, though. It's just, and I'm not sure a fence fully helps here. Do you have anything new to say at this point? We're just in debate at this point, though. Is there anything new that you have to?
What I was just going to say is I know that housing is needed. I'm not completely opposed to housing being there. It's just that the way that the units show laid out, it's going to be, I deal with people in housing all the time, and it's going to be multiple people in a unit because the units are set up as 2-bedroom with 2 bathrooms. So you're looking probably like max of 4 people, if not more, because people can't afford rent, that they start renting out half of their bedrooms. And that's my concern with having so many units laid out like that. And yeah.
Thank you. Member Maria?
Just echoing what the opposition was just saying, if you do have 4 to 6 people in a unit, what's the guarantee that they're not going to have 4 cars per unit? Right? There's not. And I'm pretty sure the parking study doesn't have that. I'm not sure if we can make a motion to have the parking looked at again, just to see if there's any way that that can be redesigned to squeeze in a bit more parking, given that I know you are trying to accommodate as many units, but I think there needs to be a balance that I'm not seeing right now.
Yeah, that's something I'm struggling with as well. Like, I do appreciate the need for more units, and I appreciate them trying to put more in here. I know this committee is minor variances. Some of these variances don't feel very minor at all. It feels like it's quite extreme, and really trying to fit a lot in that space there. So I'm having a tough time with this application. So as it stands right now, I think, not to guide, but I'm not in favor of it as it stands. I'm not sure a fence helps. Member Marco?
I agree that like the changes to the property and the parking fence isn't really going to do anything about that. I do think we have approved, if I recall correctly, I feel like we have approved a parking rate of 0.5 before. So that isn't necessarily anything new. I think because it's an existing building, it's a lot more horizontal rather than vertical. So more of the lot is being taken up. I'm a little on the fence as well.
Any further debate? If there's no further debate, I'll call for the vote then. Member Bob?
May I speak to some of the additional comments that have happened since?
If you think it would help us in our debate, I'd welcome that.
Thank you. I'd just like to touch on a couple of things that were mentioned here. I know the trouble you're having with the 0-meter setback, but the reality is that it's an existing building on the property already. It's not that we're trying to fill the property up with building. The main purpose of the addition is to give the property a facelift. It's a very small addition in terms of the percentage of the property that is being additionally covered with new building, and it's going to serve to substantially improve the site function, as well as how the site looks, as well as making the site a useful site again. Currently, it stands almost vacant, and to add 30 new units of varying sizes, going from studios, 1-bedrooms, and then just a few 2-bedrooms. The number of 2-bedrooms is only 3. 4, 5, 5. Most of the bedrooms, most of the units are 1-bedroom only. So we can't control how people use the apartments that they rent, but the intention isn't that this is going to have 150 people in it. It's going to have a mix of singles, couples, and young families. That's the expectation for the use of the site, and it's a sustainable use of an existing building stock to provide housing that we really need here. Again, on the transportation item, the part of the strategy of controlling traffic in our city is to limit and not oversupply parking. So the traffic study shows that the parking amount that we've supplied is reasonable and is acceptable to the traffic engineer, and I don't think that revising that would be of any benefit here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Just a question for the applicant, and this may be premature and you may not know the answer to it. Any idea about how parking is going to be allocated or marketed in terms of the overall development?
Yep, generally the parking is unbundled from the suites, since there are like a minor limitation of the number of spaces. So what happens is if people are not requiring a parking space, then they won't be required to pay for it. And those people who are intending to use the transit that's available will have lower rents, whereas those who wish to have parking, they're allocated their spot and pay for it.
Okay. And presumably if, you know, people sign up and all the parking's gone by 2/3 occupancy, the rest will be marketed and rented or sold, however the plan is, as non-parking units.
That's right.
Mayor Marco?
Yeah, just to echo my my fellow members' comments, since these are new units, prospective renters would be aware of the parking situation. So my hope would be that those who need 3 parking spaces would self-select, probably out. So.
Yeah, I've got a comment from city staff.
Transportation Services typically supports these kind of developments because there's nowhere for the overflow parking to go. So in the case of unbundled parking, then anyone moving into the unit would be aware of the parking beforehand. And we want to ensure that spaces are allocated for visitors. That way, people who are visiting the site may have a vehicle. However, there's no nearby commercial developments, there's no nearby on-street parking that would accommodate the permanent demand of this development. The City of Kitchener only permits 3-hour max parking during the day, and then during the winter, there's only a limited amount of overnight considerations. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any more comments from, as far as debate from committee members? If I'm seeing none, I'll look to call the vote, and the vote is to approve as presented in the staff report, along with a change to the heightened fence from 1.8 to 2.4 meters. So I'll call for that vote. All those in favor? 3 in favor. Those opposed? 2. So that's carried. It's approved.
Thank you.
Okay, moving now to new business. We have A 2025-013, 160 Grand River Boulevard. And I now invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 160 Grand River Boulevard. The purpose of the application is to recognize the location of an accessory structure that has been constructed on the property. The accessory structure is small in size, did not require a building permit for erection. However, it does require to adhere to the zoning bylaw setbacks. Typically for accessory buildings, there are 0.6 meters, but as this property is zoned institutional, the setback requirements are 7.5 meters. meters. So this existing accessory structure is 2.3 meters from the west side lot line and 5.1 meters from the south side lot line instead of the required 7.5. The applicant has gone through a site plan application. It's received conditional approval. It's a stamp plan B, so waiting approval of the minor variance application. Staff have reviewed the variance in light of the 4 tests, finds that it meets all 4, and is recommending approval. However, staff is also aware that there has been written submission requesting a deferral of the application 1 month to allow parties to attend to speak to the application. So staff have no objection to the deferral, but just for your consideration this morning, just to advise the variance does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act.
Thank you for that, Tina. Appreciate it. Now I'd like to invite the agent or applicant to come forward and to ask if they've reviewed the staff report and whether they're in support of the deferral for 1 month. If you don't mind introducing yourself on the microphone when you arrive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Benjamin. I'm one of the board members of the church, and we're not in favor of a deferral. We took time from work. 4 of us came to have this issue resolved if possible.
Thank you for that. Any parties like to make, in our opposition, make oral submissions? So no parties looking to make oral submission that's in opposition. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for the agent applicant? Seeing none. Any questions for city staff? Member Bob?
Thank you. Just a question for staff. There was an email that came in for this deferral. The name on the email didn't seem to be anywhere in the staff report. Have you verified that the person who sent this email is a legitimate, has a legitimate concern?
Yes, staff have reviewed the email. We have spoken to the applicant, or sorry, not the applicant, the adjacent property owner. There are adjacent property owners too. In fact, the one has requested the deferral, and staff can verify, yes, that it is from an adjacent property owner.
Yeah, thank you. Member Bob again.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I hate unnecessary deferrals because they just kick the can down the road. And I'm guessing the deferral was because not all parties have been consulted. And if that's the case, well, I'm not sure how they wouldn't be consulted. The sign goes up, goes in the newspaper. The applicant is opposed to the deferral. I appreciate the fact that, you have to take off work and come all the way down to City Hall, as does everyone in this room. I don't see that there's anything in here that isn't minor. So I'm going to support the staff report to carry on, and unless other members of the committee have some comments to make on a deferral, I'm seeing the applicant is opposed to it. I'll leave it there for the moment.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. We had late written submission. I think this was just a matter of not everyone being here, even though city staff is looking to, they're in favor of this. It's just people aren't here. I think just ask for a deferral for 1 month. I think that's what the request is here, though, too. I don't think they have to work on very much, but just kind of tie up some loose ends. If I can just lean on city staff.
Yes, that is correct, Chair. The adjacent property owners requested a deferral. They were not able to attend today, and they would like to attend in person. So they have requested 1 month deferral so that they can attend in person next month.
Just a question for city staff. Was there any reason that they raised of what sort of representations they want to make?
There was no indication of the type of representation, except to say that they really wanted to attend, and they just felt that the accommodations weren't provided to be able to attend this month.
Right, and if you could remind me, the sign goes up how long in advance of the meeting today?
So the sign is erected the day that the ad goes in the record. Okay. Same day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Member Marco?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the deferral, but for the figure 3, for the shed itself, it's not much taller than the fence, and there's plenty of vegetation just on the other side of the fence. So I don't know if other properties can even see it.
If I can ask a question then of the applicant, I do appreciate you being here and wanting to get this done. The structure is already there. Would you be opposed just to then waiting an extra month to get this approved, or you need this done right away?
If possible, we would like to resolve this, but if we have to, we'll work with whatever necessary, but would like to resolve this, as I said.
Member Marco?
Quick question for staff. If we defer, does that cost the applicant anything other than time?
Of course, there would be some more time spent on the application. I think there's been some historical issues that would benefit from staff-led conversation, a site visit between all the parties, and staff would appreciate that time to be able to resolve things, and possibly the adjacent property may not attend next month. So we're looking to have a site visit to try and resolve some of these issues. But we'd like all parties to be supportive of that, and we just think a deferral 1 month would benefit that site meeting, and then allowing the applicant, or sorry, I keep saying the applicant, the adjacent property owner a chance to attend in person if they choose to do so.
Member Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having had that update information from staff, I think it's fair to everyone to defer this for 1 month. So I'll put a motion on the floor that this be deferred for 1 month so that all the parties can get together and discuss this. I think that's the fair democratic way to go. So I move to defer.
Look for a seconder. Member Marco? Open the floor for debate. Seeing no debate, so I will call the vote, which is a deferral for 1 month on this matter. All those in favor of the deferral? Carry unanimously. So back in 1 month and. Next on the agenda, we have 2025-014, 51 Meadowridge Street. I invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as a staff recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 51 Meadow Ridge Street. It's a variance to the rear yard setback for a deck that is greater than 0.6 meters in height. The setback requirement is 4 meters, and the deck is only 2.5 meters instead of that 4. Also to permit that deck to be located 0.5 meters from the side lot line, whereas a requirement in the zoning bylaw is 2.5 meters. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the four tests the Planning Act, finds that they meet all four and is recommending approval.
Thank you for that. Now invite the applicant or agent to come to the microphone and introduce themselves. And please let us know and confirm that you reviewed the staff report and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation.
Good morning, John here, John Crummer. I'm the agent on behalf of the owner.
Thank you. And are you in support of the staff recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. Invite parties in opposition to make oral submissions. Seeing none. I'd like to invite the agent applicant to make comments if you have any. Seeing none. Members, any questions for the agent? None. Members, do you have any questions, city staff? No questions, so I'll wait for a motion. Member Marco?
I will move the staff recommendation.
Seconder? Member Maria? Open the floor for debate. Member Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a fairly straightforward one. It's an existing deck and existing setbacks. I think it's fairly straightforward, so I'm in support of this.
Thank you. If seeing no further debate, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. Carried. Done. Moving right along, next we have 2025-015, 1180 Union Street. If I invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 1180 Union Street. The variances before you this morning are to allow the construction of a 1.1 meter unobstructed walkway to a dwelling unit in the existing building. So those variances will allow that walkway to be constructed. So to permit that, we'd like to have the parking space located in the corner visibility triangle, and to permit the driveway to be located 7.4 meters rather than 9 meters from the intersection of streets. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the four tests. The Planning Act finds that it meets all four and is recommending approval of both.
Thank you for that. If I can invite the agent applicant to come to the microphone, please. Introduce yourself and let us know if you are in support of the staff recommendation.
Hi, I'm Vlad, and yeah, I'm in support of the application, or the staff report. Sorry? Agent, yeah.
Invite parties in opposition to make any oral submissions. Seeing none. Any comments, Vlad, or?
No.
No. Members, any questions of the agent? Seeing none. Any questions for city staff? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
I put a motion forth to move this and approve it as per the staff report.
Thank you. Need a seconder? Member Marco, I'll open the floor for debate on this one. Yeah, seeing no debate seems pretty straightforward. Some of these corner properties can be a little bit tricky and why these things come to us, but otherwise this seems pretty easy peasy. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carry unanimously. Good luck. Moving along, next we have A 2025-016, 45-53 Cortland Avenue East. I'll invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 45-53 Cortland Avenue East. The variances are before you this morning. They're only variances to bylaw zoning bylaw 85-1. The applicants are waiting for the Growing Together framework to come into place. The appeal to that bylaw is still ongoing. We do expect some resolution soon, hopefully before around Easter time, but applicants would like to get going. So as both bylaws apply during this appeal period, they require the variances to 85-1 to get going. They are requiring 3 variances before you: floor space ratio, a rear yard setback, and a maximum building height of 21 to 28 meters. The proposal was originally a 6-story building, but with the Growing Together framework, they're able to go to 8 stories and provide 95 dwelling units. So the proposal will be fully compliant once that appeal is resolved and the new bylaw comes into effect. Staff have reviewed the variances to bylaw 85-1, find that it meet all 4 tests of the Planning Act, and is recommending approval.
Thank you for that. I now invite the agent or applicant to come to the microphone there on my right to your left. Introduce yourself, please, and let us know if you are in support of the staff recommendation.
Good morning, my name is Andrea Sinclair. I'm with MHBC Planning, here in support of staff's recommendation. As Ms. Malone-Wright has explained, this is really to allow us to proceed. We're essentially have fulfilled everything else needed for full site plan approval, but we've been waiting for Growing Together to come into effect. And then just a couple of things I wanted to note for the benefit of the committee. So while we are asking for a reduction from the rear yard setback from what was put forward in the site-specific zoning, that's really only to recognize a ground-oriented or ground-supported balcony at the back of the building. The building itself is actually 22.21 meters back from the rear property line for floors 2 through 8, and on the ground floor it's just over 20 square meters. So in actuality, the building is further back from the property line than it was when we first went through and did the site-specific zoning. And then with respect to the FSR, well, we are proposing to increase it from the FSR that's in the 85-1 zoning. Growing Together does not cap FSR, so we're actually being more restrictive than Growing Together in terms of density, and that's really just to give the surrounding neighbors the assurances that we are building what's been proposed through the site plan. So otherwise, I'm fully in support of staff's recommendation and here to answer any questions.
Cool, thank you. Just a quick little question. FSR is a floor space ratio?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Now inviting parties that are in opposition to make oral submissions. If anyone opposed to this, come forward. Seeing none. Members, do you have any questions of the agent applicant? None. Members of the committee, any questions for city staff? Or Marco?
Yeah, through you, the chair. It sounds like the expectation is that the new bylaws will go through after appeal. Is that the case? I mean, I know we won't fully know, but.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. We are hoping that the appeal can be scoped site-specific, and that's the request of the Ontario Land Tribunal, is that appeal be scoped specifically to the property owner that appealed the bylaw, which would allow the remainder of the bylaw to come into effect. So we're pretty confident the OLT will scope the appeal to allow these other properties to be zoned in the new zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Sure, please, Member Bob.
This is fairly minor, and if it wasn't for the delay with the new bylaw, it wouldn't even be on our desk. The conditions are very minor, so I'm going to move that just in order to get this moving along, I'm going to move that this be approved as per the 3 conditions in the staff report.
Thanks, Member Bob. Looking for a seconder. Member Marco, I'll open the floor to debate. Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. If this new bylaw is in place, this won't even come to a committee of adjustment. All super minor here, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Good luck. Next on our agenda, A 2025-017. 1157 and 1175 Weber Street East. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 1157 to 1175 Weber Street East. You have 4 minor variances before you this morning. One for the street line step back for a mid-rise and tall building, to permit ground floor street facade to have a less width than the 50% along Franklin and Weber, and to vary the site-specific provision that requires 376 square meters of non-residential floor area. The applicant is proposing to provide 210. This is to facilitate the development of the property with an 11-story building having 233 dwelling units and 210 square meters of non-residential floor space. Staff have reviewed a site plan application and has received conditional approval subject to the variance being approved. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4, and are recommending approval of all 4.
Yeah, thank you for that. If I can invite the agent applicant to introduce themselves and let us know if you are in support of the staff recommendation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin Muir with Zara Group. Zara Group is representing 1175 Weber LP, the owner of the property. We've had a chance to review the staff report in support of the recommendations.
Thank you for that. Inviting any parties in opposition to make any oral submissions. Seeing no one here for that. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for the agent here? Seeing none. Any questions for city staff, members of the committee? Seeing none, so then I'll look for a motion, please. Member Bob?
Just to make a note for the record that there was a written opposition that came in on this application, and there's nothing we can do about controlling the sunlight. So I will move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Thanks, Member Bob, and thank you as well for noting the letter in opposition that we received ahead of time, though, too. That is nice, because all those letters that do come in, we do receive them and we do read them, so thank you for acknowledging that during the meeting as well. Member Marco, seconding?
Just on a comment of the.
If you look to second the motion, then we can get into debate, or do you have a comment before?
I can comment after in debate.
You'll second the motion then? Yeah. All right, excellent. So motion seconded, and then I'll open the floor to debate, just to move things along.
Just to respond to the written submission that we received. They were concerned about shadows. They didn't mention anything regarding their house being a passive house, so I'm not too concerned about it. I do have a quick question for staff, if that's all right.
Okay.
Are shadow studies at all part of submissions and site plan?
They are. I will defer this to the applicant, so he may be more familiar with the site plan application process than I.
If you don't mind, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. So this, a little backstory on this. This was originally before City Council for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment in 2023. It was a different building form at that point, which was a 15-story and 19-story tower on a 4-story podium. Given the market conditions, it's now, we've pivoted to essentially 11-story. Shadow studies were done as part of the original application, were deemed acceptable. They were done as part of the site plan approval for the 11-story and deemed acceptable, and leading to the conditional site plan approval that we have currently.
Thank you, that's all.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. If I'm not seeing any further debate, I'll call for the vote. This looks like a really good looking building, though, too, in 11 stories. It looks sharp and a good spot for it, though, as well. Sometimes you get these really giant buildings. It looks great, so I'm impressed with what I saw there. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Good luck. Yeah, moving right along. We have A 2025-018, 60 Wellington Street North. If I can invite city staff to introduce the application, as well as a staff recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 60 Wellington Street North. Unlike the previous application for Cortland, this both bylaws, there are variances required to both bylaws. So it is in that appeal period as well, stuck in that appeal period. So 60 Wellington is subject to bylaw 85-1 and the new bylaw 2019-051. So the first variances are to locate the building in the DVT, or driveway visibility triangle. That's not a variance required of the new bylaw. And the second variance is to permit accessory structure to have a lot coverage of 17.4% rather than the maximum permitted 15%. And that is a requirement in the new bylaw as well. So a variance is before you this morning for that. Staff have reviewed the two variances to the two bylaws and have reviewed them in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would now invite the agent or the applicant to come forward. If you can introduce yourself, please, and then confirm if you've reviewed the staff report and whether you're in support of it.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris, and I'm the property owner, and I agree. Approve the staff recommendation.
Thank you for that. Any parties today in the gallery in opposition? I'd like to make an oral submission. Not seeing anyone. Members, do you have any questions of the agent or applicant? Any questions for city staff? Seeing no questions, then I'll look for a motion, please, from the floor. Mayor Amanda?
I'll make a motion to approve in accordance with the staff report.
Thank you. We need a seconder. Mayor Marco? Debate? Mayor Marco?
I know this has come up before. Are we doing anything about the Metrolinx notice?
I don't think we can really address that, though. It's just, Member Amanda?
Yeah, my understanding of the Metrolinx is that's for the property owner to review and acknowledge and accept and proceed with the development as they see fit based on receiving that.
Excellent, thank you for that. If seeing no further debate, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, which is to approve? Yeah, carried unanimously. Good luck. Next on the list, 2025-019, 114 Madison Avenue South. If I can ask the planning coordinator to introduce the application and staff recommendation, please.
Yes, sorry, thank you, Chair. I was just confirming the recommendation. I'm just noting that the variance, it does say to 85-1. So this is another property that would comply with the new zoning bylaw once the appeals are resolved. So the variances are to 85-1 only. There are 3 variances before you this morning. They are to facilitate the development of a 10-unit multiple dwelling. So there's a variance to the rate of visitor parking, the side yard setback, and the floor space ratio. So again, these variances are not required once the appeal is resolved to the new zoning bylaw. Staff is recommending approval of the variances. They meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act. We are recommending some conditions be imposed, and that's because it is a 10-unit building and it doesn't go through the site plan approval process. So we're refining our processes. As you know, site plan approval has not been required for 10 units for some time now. We typically haven't imposed conditions, but we're just finding it'd be better to be clear with the applicants up front of what the requirements would be through building permit, so that there's some work done ahead of that building permit application.
Thank you for that. Now invite the agent applicant to introduce yourself and then let us know if you are in support of the staff recommendation, please.
My name is Marius Ardelin. I'm the agent on this application. I support the staff's recommendation.
Thank you for that, Marius. Any parties in opposition? Seeing none. Committee members, any questions or comments for the agent? Seeing none. Any questions or comments for city staff? None. I'll look for a motion. And Maria?
I move a motion to approve the staff report recommendation.
Thanks for that. And Member Marco, do you second? I got a second from Member Marco. So I'll open the floor to debate on this one. Seeing no debate, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Yeah, carried. Good luck. Next on the agenda, 2025-020, 15 Palace Street. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and the staff recommendation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 15 Palace Street. It is to reduce the width of a bicycle space to 0.45 meters instead of the minimum required 0.6 meters. And to reduce the bicycle parking overhead clearance to 1.1 meters instead of the minimum required 2.1 meters. This is to facilitate revisions to the bicycle parking that's proposed for an 8-story multiple dwelling, and this is in accordance with the conditionally approved site plan application. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests. The Planning Act finds that it meets all 4, and we are recommending approval subject to a condition that the owner obtains approval from the city's Director of Transportation Services of the final vendor design of the bicycle parking racks to confirm their functionality.
Thank you for that. If I can invite the agent or the applicant to introduce themselves and let us know if you're in support of the staff recommendation, please.
Thank you. My name is Serena Sumal here from GSP Group on behalf of the property owner. We have reviewed the report and are in support of the recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition? Seeing none. Members, do you have any questions of the agent applicant? Member Marco?
Yeah, if possible. Do you know what the obstruction for the height is? Is it like concrete or is it just like pipes or something?
From my understanding, it is the space of the underground parking garage of the area that will be located in.
Okay. I think the only other comment I have, I use my e-bike pretty frequently and it has pretty wide tires. So I did measure my bike and it would fit, and it's not a small bike. So I don't think you'll have too many issues with this. Yeah, maybe just see if you can support the really wide tires. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Marco. Any questions for city staff? Mayor Bob.
I'm probably going to actually defer this to my colleague, Mr. Gambetti, because he is the bike expert around this table. But I'm kind of concerned about the overhead height is 1.2 meters. That's about, and unless you're going to be, this area is going to be used by hobbits or toddlers, I don't think that's going to be tall enough for even a short guy like me to put a bike in there. So I'm very concerned about that height, and it should be more. Is there any way, either, I guess, to the applicant that can be changed from 1.2 meters to minimum required is 2.1. So I would be much more comfortable with something closer to the 2.1.
I'll let you respond to that.
Okay. Yeah, so the access aisle space to the storage area will be exceeded, so there should be sufficient access to access the bicycle storage area, and the vertical clearance for accessing that area will be maintained. I also want to note that the bicycle parking will be staggered in height, so that'll prevent any overlap of the handlebars and ensure ease of access when residents are looking to store their bikes.
Thank you. Any questions, city staff? Yeah, like I'll ask, I don't know, I guess maybe I'll wait for debate though. if it wasn't for that condition, I guess, I don't know how this works. But you measured, Marco, and it would fit?
Yeah, so my bike would fit, but I'm thinking now, if you want to lock your bike, if these racks don't include some kind of locking mechanism that's automatic, you typically want to get beside your bike. And so you'll be standing in that space. And so, like, if it's a little bit short, that's not too big of a deal, but I mean, I'm a lot taller than 1.1 meters. So I think the condition for ensuring functionality, I would hope that would tackle the use and the getting in there to lock your bike. I think the height is really the only thing that I'm worried about. The width was fine, especially with the stagger.
If I can ask a question then of the applicant, or the agent, pardon me, how many bikes are supposed to be stored in this area?
I do not have the number offhand, but I do know that we are maintaining the required number of bicycle parking spaces.
Maria?
I'm looking at the floor plan and it says 134 bike spaces.
Thanks for that. Any more questions for the agent or for city staff? Member Marco?
Yeah, I think I'll ask city staff if they think that that condition will address the height issue and being able to get in there to actually lock your bike.
So we feel that condition is satisfactory. We want to ensure the functionality since we haven't seen this type of bicycle storage in the city yet. So we want to ensure that it is functional, so that if it's not functional, the variance would not come into effect. So it's just to protect ourselves in terms of just ensuring that functionality.
In terms of functionality, what do you mean by that then, sorry?
Not so concerned so much about the width of the parking space, as Member Gambetti has said. It's more or less that overhead clearance and just making sure that that is indeed functional.
Mayor Bob?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually went out and measured my bicycle this weekend. Yes, Marco, I have actually got two. I haven't ridden them for a while due to health issues, but I'll be out on the road this summer. I have no concern about the width, but the height is a stickler for me, and despite the assurances from staff that they're going to make sure it's functional, that should have been done before it came to this committee. So I'm not going to support this simply on the basis of I think that a 1.2 meters, I'm not as tall as Mr. Gambetti, but even for a short guy like me, that's not going to work. So I'm going to be opposed to this.
If I can ask city staff, if this is not approved, what happens?
So if not approved, we'll have to find another location on the site for the bicycle parking. Possibly refer to Figure 3 that can show you how the clearance would work or is proposed to work, and then we would just get that confirmation. So the bicycles would be, there wouldn't be sort of that two-level storage, it'd just be the one-level storage of the bicycles.
Member Amanda?
Sure, just a comment. For me, I think it's important to note that this is bike storage, not a bike throughfare. And even if you're doing up your bike on the street, you have to bend over to, the poles on the street are only about sort of mid-thigh. So to sort of waste space on space that's not utilized and hold up a development for that purpose does not seem appropriate to me.
Thanks for those comments. Member Maria?
So even looking at this detail, and maybe Marco and Bob can correct me if I'm wrong, if you were to store your bike, you would just push it from the back, or do you always get on the side? Because it seems you do have enough head clearance because it is double stacked. So you'll have at least 2.4 meters to be able to have enough head clearance. And if anything, I feel like the smaller head clearance is actually better ergonomically if you're pulling down the second tier to store your bike. So you don't actually have to reach up 2.1 meters. Because the second tier pulls down, just by looking at the detail that is in there, that GSP submitted. I mean, what I'm imagining is you just...
Yeah, Figure 4 in the agenda package, it shows the 2 tiers of bikes in there, in our package.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think it's one of those things where you have to use it to get a good sense of how it will work. It does look like there's somewhere to lock the bike at the back, so maybe you don't need to get in all the way. It's too bad we don't have a 3D model or a mock-up that we could look at, because if the clearance issue was pipes or mechanical and wasn't a concrete slab, then that I wouldn't be as concerned about it. Yeah, I'm a little unsure.
Any more questions for the agent or the applicant? Or pardon me, the agent or city staff? If there are none, I'll just look for a motion. Mayor Maria?
I set a motion forth to approve the staff report.
Thank you. Seconder? Member Amanda, I'll open the floor for debate. I'll speak on this, though. It doesn't seem minor at all. If it weren't for this condition that the City Director of Transportation will make sure that this actually functions, I couldn't stand for this, but I hope common sense will prevail and they'll make sure this actually works. There's a significant amount of bikes supposed to be stored there. As far as height, it seems not functional at all, but I hope that the vendor that they find that can provide this racking will actually work. And if that's the case, I trust that common sense will work. I don't want to hold up a development over bike storage, but it seems, it seems kind of ridiculous, the variance here and how it's going to work, but I'm willing to approve it based on hopefully common sense will prevail. Member Amanda?
Just a question for the applicant, appreciating that zoning is obviously specific to the municipality, but any idea this particular style of racking? Like, are we talking about a sort of newfound style, or is this used elsewhere in more populated areas quite frequently?
Through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Kristen Barrisdale. I'm also from GSP Group, assisting Serena on this application. The racking system that's been provided to us is actually one that's quite regularly used in Toronto. It is a rather unique system. It's a staggered system where I believe the city's bylaw has been prepared assuming a top on bottom racking system, where this one, like I said, is staggered. So it does provide for opportunities for them to put these types of systems in much more confined, condensed spaces. I believe that you touched on this before, that the clearance is quite fine to walk into it. It's just a mechanism in which for them to provide such a significant number of secure biking spaces. The applicant or the developer of the site has used these facilities, or excuse me, these types of systems and other developments as well, and has had no concerns with them, hence why they're proposing to use it on this site.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, and if the system works, it's fine. Just on paper, when you see like 4 feet, and it's just like, how is someone going to get their bike when they only have 4 feet of clearance? But the mechanism for the racking just will put the bike up, correct?
Yes, through you. It's again, instead of a on top bottom stacking system, it's a staggered stacking system, so you can pinch that wall down a bit further than a typical clearance if you were walking to an 8-foot or a 10-foot high room.
Excellent, thank you. Any further debate? Member Marco?
I think I'm willing to trust staff. I think if the condition weren't there, it wouldn't be comfortable. I'm glad to hear that this kind of system is in use in other places as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So I'll call for the vote. All those. Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun.
It would have been nice to have had a little bit more information and maybe some actual pictures or some testimonial or something. This is the first time in Kitchener. I'm not going to support it. I'm going to wait and see how it turns out. And maybe the next time we get an application like this, I can go and visit. So at this moment, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to support the application.
Thank you for those comments. Seeing no further debate, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving? We got 4 in favor. All those opposed? We have 1 member in opposition, so it is carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Moving along in our agenda, A 2025-021, 2880 King Street East. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and the staff recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 2880 King Street East. It is a parking variance before you this morning to recognize a parking requirement for an existing building, and this is to facilitate the lease of one of the units. Staff have reviewed the application. We do note that the minimum parking required is actually 44 instead of 35 that was indicated in the notice. And this is because it is a restaurant that's proposed to go into one of the units, so that does change the parking requirement for a plaza. So the variance should be from 44 to 27 parking spaces. Because of the variance and the change and the use, staff is suggesting that the applicant complete a parking justification study. That's something that we don't have in order to consider the variance. So we're suggesting that the variance be deferred until the September 16th agenda, or it could come back sooner if that parking justification study has been done sooner. And so we're just suggesting that deferral to allow staff that opportunity to review the appropriate parking number there.
Thank you for that. If I confirm the agent or the applicant, if they can introduce themselves, please, and let us know if you agree with the staff report as well as their recommendation, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pavandeep, and I'm the agent for this application. I had discussed this report with the planner as well. I have a few comments to make so that I can discuss it with you. So we are aware that this is being turned out into a restaurant, but this is more of a coffee shop and a takeout place, not as a typical restaurant. And moreover, there is another thing that I think I should mention is, so there is a leased space here from the city of Kitchener that the owner pays the property taxes for, and he's also willing to buy that, and which he already initiated with the city of Kitchener to buy that parcel of land. And the second thing, the existing parking space is 2.7, whereas the existing, the current requires us to put 2.6 meter wide. If we readjust that in the site plan application, which we did because for that lease space to be included into that, but they said you need to buy that first. So we might be able to increase that. And furthermore, the one of the restaurant is a pizza shop that opens around 3 p.m. So, and that's the one thing that there is some overlapping that's not there. And this is a more of a coffee shop rather than the restaurant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any parties in opposition like to make an oral submission? Seeing none, you've made some comments already, the agent. Do members have any questions for the agent? None. Any questions for city staff? How long does, if I may ask the city staff, how long does it take to get to typically like a parking justification study? Does it take a long time?
Based on my past experience, likely a couple months from start to finish, once they acquire a consultant.
Okay, thank you. And if I can ask the agent, when's the commencement of the lease for this restaurant? When's it due to begin?
Oh, you didn't get that?
This new restaurant, when's it supposed to begin? When's the intended start date?
So actually, we started this application last year. So the tenants are also, beside me, this is the owner. The tenants are still waiting to open that, just waiting for this application. So anytime soon, probably a month or so, that or 2 months, I would say, would be the thing that we might want to open that.
Okay, thank you. I'll look for a motion from the committee. Member Marco?
Just to get things going, and you know, not everyone needs to vote for it, but seeing as it's an existing site, I'm going to move that the application be approved rather than deferred.
Okay. We'll need a seconder. Seeing no seconder, I'll wait for then that dies on the vine. We'll need another motion then. Member Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing staff is recommending a deferral, I'm going to side with staff on this one. I think a little bit of time isn't going to really hurt anyone, so let's have this deferred. That's my motion.
Thank you. And then in the report, it says December 16th or sooner. Is that what you're moving? Thank you. Seconder? Member Amanda, I'll open the floor for debate. If there's no debate, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the deferral? Carried then, so it's been deferred.
I have a question.
Sure thing.
So should we like go with that justification before, so for the further committee of adjustments?
Sorry, if I can lean on city staff then, if you can answer that question, is it appropriate?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I believe the question was they'll need to then proceed with that, oh my goodness, what's it called? The
Parking justification study, yes.
That's correct.
Yes. Yes, so if they could work with the file planner through the site plan application with that parking justification study, we'll make sure that that comes back to the committee. If it's sooner, then it's September 16th.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, good luck. So next we have A 2025-022, 25 Haldman Street. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and the staff recommendation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a unique property before you this morning. It's actually dual zoned, so part of the property is in 85-1 and part of the property is in 2019-051. So that's the reason for the number of variances before you this morning. There's variances to 85-1 and there's variances to 2019-051. The properties together are, it's one property, and it's proposed to be developed with 102 dwelling units. Site plan has been submitted, and so the dual zoning results in the number of variances before you this morning. I do want to note the parking requirement because I believe there's been some written submissions, people believing that the parking reduction is actually 30 spaces. It is technically listed as one of the variances, but the parking requirement over the two zones would be met. So the parking requirement in bylaw 85-1 is 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. In the new bylaw, it's 1.1 parking spaces per dwelling unit, and that parking requirement across both zones would be met. Same with the EV-ready parking spaces. So one side of the property doesn't have them, but the other side does. It's in the other zone, but over the entire site, that bylaw requirement is met. So if you go to the section, I don't know the page number, but in terms of what variances are consistent between the two bylaws, so if the property was one bylaw, the only variance consisting that would be required would be the parking in between the facade and the front lot line. So that is common between the two bylaws. So hopefully that clarifies things. Is we typically don't have these dual zone properties, but I believe staff reviewed the site plan application over the entirety of the property, respecting the zone boundaries, and that's why you have the variances before you this morning. Staff reviewed these variances in light of the four tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all four, and is recommending approval.
Thank you. If I can invite the agent or the applicant to come forward to the microphone and let us know if you've reviewed the staff report and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlotte Lewington. I'm a planner at GSP Group, and I'm the authorized agent for the application on behalf of the property owner. I have had a chance to review the staff report and recommendation. I also had a chance to look at the public comments, so I was going to address them, but thank you, Tina, for explaining those ones. And so I do agree with the staff report and recommendation to approve. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. We did receive letters in opposition that were read and received by this committee, but people now have the opportunity to make oral submissions if they would like. Seeing no one, members of the committee, do you have any questions for the agent or for this property? Seeing none, any questions for city staff? Member Bob.
Maybe it's just me not seeing it. So actually a question to the applicant. How many EV parking spaces will be on the joint properties?
In total, there will be 23 EV-ready parking spaces, 23.
Okay.
And that's 20% of the required parking spaces.
That answers my question.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, I'll look for a motion. Mayor Marco?
I will move the staff recommendation.
Seconder? Member Maria? Floor is open for debate. Seeing no debate, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Yeah, it is carried, unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next on the list, we have A 2025-023, 140 Byron Avenue. If I can invite city staff to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 140 Byron Avenue. The minor variance is to permit a building footprint for a detached additional dwelling unit of 93.8 square meters instead of the maximum permitted 80 square meters. And this is to facilitate that detached additional dwelling unit becoming 2 dwelling units in that detached structure. Staff have reviewed the variance in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4, and is recommending approval subject to 2 conditions. And again, that's because the process no longer requires site plan approval, and so just being transparent with some of the conditions that would be required prior to building permit.
Thank you so much. If I can have the agent or the applicant introduce themselves and let us know if you review the staff report and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation, please.
My name is Peter Kopel, working with Arcadia Design, and we're representing the property owners on this one. And I am in agreement with the memo from planning staff.
Thanks for that. Any parties in opposition that'd like to make oral submissions? Seeing none. Members, time for questions for the agent. So this structure is already there, correct?
There's already currently an existing detached dwelling unit in the back, a tiny home, and this proposal is to add a second one attached to this one.
Understood, thank you. Any Member Marco?
Just for everyone's benefit and for clarification, the new dwelling unit would be effectively where the garage already is, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Any questions for city staff from members of the committee? If there are none, I'll look for a motion, please. Member Marco?
I will move the staff recommendation.
Seconder? Seconded by Member Bob. Open the floor for debate. Seeing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. Carried. Good luck. Next, 2025-024, 507 Sterling Avenue South. If I can ask for the planning coordinator to introduce the application and the staff recommendation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 507 Sterling Avenue South. There are 3 variances before you this morning. They are to facilitate the construction of a new accessory building and also a detached additional dwelling unit in the rear yard of the subject property. Staff have separated the recommendation. The first 2 variances to permit an accessory structure to have a building height to the underside of the fascia of 4 meters instead of the maximum permitted 3 meters, and to permit the lot coverage of 18% instead of the maximum 15%. Those 2 variances staff have reviewed in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, find that they meet all 4 and is recommending approval subject to conditions. There is a 3rd variance that was requested. It's a variance to permit the required unobstructed walkway of 1.1 meters to share the driveway, whereas the bylaw doesn't permit this. Staff have reviewed this variance in light of the 4 tests and finds that it does not meet all tests and is recommending refusal of this variance.
Thank you for that. I invite the agent or the applicant to come forward to the microphone, please, and let us know if you reviewed the staff report and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation.
Hello, my name is Justin Urban from Apple Homes, and I'm representing the owners on this applicant or this application. We did get a chance to review the staff report, and we obviously are in favor of the passing or the area that you guys approved, but we did want to discuss the driveway being used as the walkway, because from the homeowner's point of view, obviously these ARUs or ADUs are often used in an effort to to be cost effective. With the air conditioning, the gas service on the left-hand side of the house, we just don't feel like it's feasible to install a walkway all the way back to the proposed ADU when the driveway perfectly works, in our opinion, because there's a parking space in the front and a parking space in the rear. We did meet with zoning prior to making this application. They did say that this would be favorable. They didn't, I guess they overlooked the distance beside the house to the lot line. But if you look at our site plan, we're proposing that, the parking is, there's 2 parking spaces, and the narrowness beside the existing residential isn't going to be used as a parking space. And I guess I just have to ask you as counselors, if you were going to be the homeowner, would you want to pay for that walkway? We've already talked with the homeowners. They said that, they're not going to shovel that walkway when they already have these other walkways that they plan on using. So I know emergencies, they had said that they wanted to see that area cleared, but it's a big expense to put that concrete walkway all the way to the back. So we just wanted to open that up for discussion.
Thank you for that. Now invite any parties that are in opposition like to make an oral submission regarding this application. Seeing none. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for this agent regarding this application? Member Amanda?
Is it just the expense of the added walkway and the maintenance, or like do the air conditioner and the gas line, can those remain, or would those have to be moved or changed in some way?
The air conditioning would definitely have to be removed. The gas meter, we could probably work around it, but obviously there's a gas service that we would have to be digging over all the way to the road. It added expense for the customer not to include all the concrete and gravel required.
Any other questions? Questions for city staff from the members of the committee? No questions? So I'll look for a motion. I guess we've got 2 things here. Is usually we just separate these then, Madam Secretary? Okay, so look for 2 separate things here. So we got the first, how do we do this here? So first the minor variance. A, we'll look for that one, and then we'll separate into B, I guess, if that makes sense. Mayor Marco?
Yeah, I will move the staff recommendation for those first 2 variances.
Looking for a seconder? So that's the first little section there. Member Bob? We'll open the floor up to debate. Yeah, this feels minor. Like I have a tough time with the height going to 4 meters. It's just always a challenge with these adding extra density, and it's going higher than the homes around it. But it does look to be a good design and seems functional enough, though. But I really don't like when it gets higher than the other properties. It's supposed to be a little bit lower, but otherwise it is what it is. Anyone else have any further comments about this or debate? If there are none, we'll just I'll call for the vote.
Chair, just to clarify, the additional height's for the accessory building and not the ADU?
For the garage, right?
Yes, for the garage, yes. Yeah.
It's still, just another structure there that's standing then taller than the house itself for the benefit of the neighbors. But thank you for the clarification. Yeah, I'll call for the vote on that one. All those in favor of Part A? Thank you. That part's carried unanimously. We'll now look for a motion for Part B, which is regarding that walkway. Member Marco.
Is it all right if I have a procedural question?
Pardon me?
Is it okay if I have a procedural question?
Sure.
Just to clarify, if we make a motion to approve and that fails, then they don't get approval, or do we need to make another to refuse?
So if you're going to move the recommendation in the staff report for Part B, which is a refusal, and it passes, then the application is refused. And if it doesn't pass, then it's approved.
If I move approval rather than refusal, and then that fails, just so that we're not having a double negative. If that fails, then it's refused.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think for the purposes of discussion, and so that we don't have double negatives, I will move that Part B be approved.
Member Bob?
This double negative stuff confuses my old mind. So, motion is to approve the staff report?
The motion is to approve the variance.
So
if we vote in favor, then they can have the walkway where they want it. If we vote against, then the walkway would be refused. That is my intention, just so it's hopefully less confusing.
I'm a bit more confused now, so I'm just...
So, okay, Member Gambetti has brought forward a motion to approve the unobstructed walkway variance. So if you're in support of that variance passing, then you just vote in favor, and if you're against, you vote against. Basically what Member Marco is trying to do is to avoid double negatives so that there isn't any confusion. So basically, right now the motion on the floor is to approve. If you support it, vote in favor. If you don't support it, vote against. If the motion fails, the variance is refused. I hope I helped.
I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. I don't want to do it without you. So we have that motion. Is there a seconder? Member Maria.
So just to clarify for a third time, I second to approve the walkway, right? Okay.
Yes.
So I second that.
Thank you. So we have a first and seconder to approve the walkway. Debate.
I think my primary concern with the walkway is that, yes, there are two parking spaces, but if there is a third vehicle, they're probably going to put it in the middle, or they're right beside the house, which would be in the way of the walkway. So I'm curious what my fellow members think of this walkway.
Anyone? Maria?
Are you referring to the main concrete walkway facing the street, directly in front of the house?
So the
Of
walkway.
the existing house?
So there's the existing house, the walkway in front of the house and behind the house, I don't really have an issue. I'm a little concerned about the walkway going right beside the driveway to the side of the house. I'm still a little bit concerned that there might be some conflicts with parking.
Amanda?
Yeah, I guess I was fairly compelled by the fire services comments that there's no sort of mechanism available there to control where someone parks. So even if, there's sufficient area, someone could park, horizontal right there for whatever reason, groceries are heavy, any sort of given reason. So yeah, it's tough. I get the inconvenience and the cost, and I guess maybe question for the applicant, I assume the ADU, that's going to be a rental property? No?
It's going to be for the parents of the property owner.
And has there been any sort of explorations of sort of any, I can't necessarily think of any off the cuff, but, way of ensuring that there's that sort of throughfare is not covered by a car at any given moment?
We haven't discussed any, mechanisms per se, because we do have the third parking space in the proposed garage for the ADU. So I know in this particular circumstance, parking isn't going to be an issue for, the occupants of this dwelling. In my opinion, they already have, in the current situation, there is, plenty of room to walk by the car if they do park it there now. But that's just my opinion, I suppose.
Yeah, I share the views of my colleague over here. Like, I do appreciate the agent, what they're saying. As far as convenience and cost, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the reason why the bylaw is there is for fire services in case of emergency. And if that walkway is not there and there's vehicles there, it becomes a problem then to get emergency services to the back of the property. So, like, I totally hear what you're saying here. Like, I really get it. It just makes sense not to have it, but the bylaw is there for a reason. You know, like, roughly how much that walkway would cost? It's not the biggest. You have a ballpark?
You're usually around $22 a square foot. I don't know the rough length of that, but probably be anywhere between 5,000 to 7,000, somewhere in there.
Thanks for that. Any other comments?
If I could just add a comment, Chair. If moving to approve the recommendation, just want the committee to be aware of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and make sure that the variance does meet all 4 tests.
Thank you. Mayor Marco, do you have anything there?
I just kind of felt that we were probably going to go to vote soon, so just wanted to double check and just make sure that we all know that voting for will allow them to build the walkway where they want it. So if you don't want the walkway there, vote against. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I will call for the vote then. All those in favor of the approval? We have 2 votes. Approval of the walkway? To my understanding, the motion is to approve of those variances, but the staff recommendation is the refusal. So you're approving it. Okay. So all those in favor, we have 2.
I was approving Member Marco's motion, not the staff report.
Okay. So we have
So-
2 in favor of the approval, correct?
Of the walkway as it is proposed and shown in the current drawings, yes.
Correct. Okay, so 2 in favor. All those opposed? So 3 opposed. So it's not carried. It's been refused.
So I just want to clarify. So does that mean just the walkways refused, or is the whole proposal refused? How does that work exactly? I was trying to follow along with the double negative, but.
So the request for the unobstructed walkway of 1.1 meters to share a driveway is not permitted. So that request has been refused, just that section. Yeah.
Okay, so we're good to proceed. We just have to basically, you know, we're gonna have to put the walkway in the left-hand side of the property. Yeah, okay.
Correct. Thank you. Good luck. All right, I think we're at A 2025-025, 93 and 95 Kinsey Avenue. If I can ask the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A minor variance application was before the committee in October 2022. The variance before the committee at that time was a reduction of the rear yard setback to be able to construct a semi-detached duplex. So a semi-detached dwelling with an extra dwelling unit on each side. The variance was for the rear yard because Walker Street was the front yard for the purposes of a single, but the front yard has moved to Kinsey as a result of a semi-detached dwelling and its orientation to Kinsey Avenue. So it requires required that 7.5 meters along the lot line with the property on Walker Street. The variance was from 7.5 meters to 3 meters, and the committee approved that variance. The applicant has now come back. Instead of a semi-detached duplex, they would like to add a third dwelling unit to each side of that semi-detached dwelling for 3 dwelling units on each side of that semi-detached dwelling. This does require some variances, new variances. It requires 3 parking spaces, and the applicant is only prepared to provide 2 parking spaces. It does require a front yard setback of 4.6 meters, whereas the established front yard setback is 7.8 meters. And we're going to revisit the rear yard setback that was previously approved by the committee, because now we're proposing 3 units on each side rather than 2 units. So staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4, and is recommending approval.
Thank you for that. If I can ask the agent applicant to come forward, introduce yourself, please, and let us know if you reviewed the report and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation.
Good morning. My name is Chris Fernandez. I'm an agent of the applicant and designer of it, and we agree with staff. Sorry.
Thank you. Any parties here in the gallery in opposition that would like to make oral submissions? You're in opposition?
My name is Margaret Mamkoglu. I live on 119 Kinsey, and that lot is right next to me. That property burned down, and that lot is not big enough to hold what they want to put to face Kinsey Avenue. There are lots of kids walking by on the sidewalk, lots of traffic on Kinsey. Sometimes we sort of tease each other. We need a traffic light to cross the street because the road is very busy. There's school down the street, and there's busing as well.
Thank you for that.
If I have a chance.
Go ahead, please.
More? Okay, here I go. So anyway, this focuses on overall density is too high. A total of 6 units, 3 within each half of the semi is too much, and as a result, does not meet the 3 of the 4 tests of Planning Act noted in the staff report. The one arguable one could say it meets the general intent of the official plan. The Planning Act says that a minor variance application to be supported, it must meet all 4 tests. If it fails to meet the even one, it should be refused. The one I think there are arguments to say that the application does not meet the general intent of the zoning law. Second point is and are the effect of variance minor? Third point is and are the variance desirable for appropriate development or the use of the land, building and or structure, okay? Just so you know that. Typically, there's not enough parking spot for the density that this would provide. You would have two small driveways coming out to Kinsey. The person that lives there, one of them would park the car in, and one would be on the driveway. Where would the other cars be? You tell me. I would like to know that. I'm not against planning. I'm not against it at all. I think it's a good idea. However, this lot is double-decked. Why didn't they go towards Walker Street? Right beside them is a brand-new building to highlight the new one that they would put in. Okay? No traffic, not as much traffic as on Kinsey. Kinsey is a major street coming across from Stanley Park and all over. And I also want to say that you got cellar dwellers, okay? They also need to make sure that these people that are living in the basement have enough exit in case of fire. Also, the fence between the building and myself, I wanted 5 feet, no, 8 feet, I should say. And also a sign off on the drainage plan, implications and liability, because all the water will come into my basement. And the road access, like I said, is just impossible. 2 small driveways going into Kinsey. I don't know how you expect this to work. Which is more important, kids walking to school with their parents or walking by themselves, or having 2 driveways coming, like it's right next to mine almost. I have a double driveway, by the way. Where are these people going to park? You tell me. Already you got 10 people, 1 cellar dweller, 1 cellar dweller, and 3 in the main. You double that to 2 units. You got 2 cellar dwellers, 2 cellar dwellers, and 5 in main, total of 18. And you know what? If it's a family that has a university student, he will have a car too. Where are you going to put them all? Not in my driveway. So, another thing I would like to mention is that this area is well known for rats. Once they start digging, they're going to have to look after that as well.
Thank you very much for your comments and for being here.
You're very welcome. I lived in this area for 50 years. I know Centerville inside out. I know the population. I know the people. They're good people. And I also taught at St. Patrick's School.
Thank you.
There you go.
Members of the committee, do you have any questions for the opposition? Seeing none. Would the agent like to make any comments regarding what was just said?
Yeah, to speak to, I guess, like the built form hasn't changed from the approval that we received previous to this. In terms of occupants, originally we were proposing a 2-bedroom unit and a 1-bedroom unit, which would give an occupancy of, so originally it would give us an occupancy of 6 people, so 2 beds or 2 2-bedrooms, and then, 1 2-bedroom and 1 1-bedroom. And then this proposal here was the same occupancy would be 3 units, 1 bedroom per. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the footprint, everything is kind of the same as per the last submission or approval we received. Okay, any comments?
Sorry, can you just speak in the microphone? I can't hear.
Sorry, I never got the form for October the 22nd or whatever that was proposed. I never got any information. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay, sir, you have one more comment there?
So my name is Matt Phipps. I'm the owner of the property. So back in 2022, when we originally planned for the semi-duplexes, we had provided the same amount of parking, and it was going to be a 2-bedroom unit and a 3-bedroom unit in the upper unit, consisting of 5 bedrooms. So right now, it's going to be the exact same number of bedrooms. So the occupancy will actually be the exact same as it would be if it were the duplexes that were previously approved. Regarding the street traffic and everything like that, there are speed bumps on the street. We were going to widen the parking previously, but due to there being a tree on the city property line, we couldn't widen it to do double wide parking, hence us getting the minor variance for the 1 less spot.
Understood, thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions of the agent or the owner that is here? Armando.
Thanks. Just a few questions for the applicant. I'm wondering if for our benefit, there was a reference to a fire in a previous application. Was the fire as part of, did that occur during development, or is that way back and then that's why the property is vacant? Just wonder if you just fill in the gaps there.
Yeah, so we had previously applied for the duplex while there was an existing house on the property. Since then, the house itself burnt down. It wasn't anything to do with the development. It was a fire in that house. Since then, the property's been demolished and it's been sitting as vacant land.
Okay. Thank you, that's helpful. I guess the opposition came with a series of prepared, complaints, and I think a lot of them are somewhat compelling. So I wonder if maybe we could just spend a little time to sort of go through those and recognition of that preparation. So I guess the first a point was made about the orientation of the building. I'm not a planner. Just looking at this, it looks like the sort of visibility triangle was a large part of why we're facing out onto Kenzie, I guess is the street, as opposed to the other abutting street. So I'm wondering if you could just speak to that.
Yeah, that is correct. And due to the minimum lot width of the corner lot, we didn't have the lot width for the corner lot.
Okay, and then I guess my other question, the concern for parking, which I think just on the face of the application, that seems to sort of be the most compelling concern. What is the plan for sort of marketing of these units and allocation of parking?
Yeah, so there'll be one spot for the main floor, one spot for the upper, and then no parking for the lower units.
Okay, so the lower units will be purely for those availing themselves of transit and...
Correct. Yeah, and I do think there is, to your point, there is lots of bus routes around. Obviously, we've got the LRT stop at Fairview Mall, which isn't far away. I think there's plenty of transit around, and I have other properties as well where we don't have parking for units, and there's no problem. We make them, effectively cheaper units, which people tend to like when they don't have a vehicle anyway. So I think it's kind of a win-win.
Thank you.
Member Marco?
Yeah, to the applicant. Just a small thing. Have you considered putting in any bicycle parking anywhere?
I would be happy to do so.
I'm sorry, I can't hear a word you're saying. Could you speak louder?
Yeah, so the member of the
Clearer?
committee was asking about putting in parking for bicycles, so bike storage. That's what was suggested.
Yes, I can do that.
Sorry, that was a little fast. That you are considering it? You are
Yeah,
going
if that's a requirement or something that we need to do to put bicycle stalls in, I'm happy to do that. I don't see any issue with that at all.
Okay, so you're saying you would be happy if we made some bike storage a requirement?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Or you can either make it a requirement if that's what you need to do, or just recommend it, however you see fit. I'm not opposed to any bicycle parking.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for city staff from committee members? Yeah, seeing no other questions out there, so I'll look for a motion. Someone's got to make a motion here. Member Marco?
I will move the staff recommendation.
Okay, looking for a seconder?
Mr. Chair, I'll second. I have heard the concerns from the neighbor. Some of those can be addressed through other situations, like if you're getting water in your basement, they have a problem, not you. And some of the other issues you brought forward are valid, but we have to balance these, so I'm going to second Mr. Gambetti's motion to approve this.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Now it's open for debate. Yeah, I do appreciate the comments from the opposition.
I put a lot of work into this, and to let you know, it doesn't follow the rules of what you have.
Yeah, so we're open for debate now with committee members, and I do appreciate what the opposition had to say. A lot of the items mentioned are of concern, but unfortunately, it's not stuff that we deal with here at committee. It would be bylaw and property standards. It's obviously these properties are always a little bit tricky that are on corners as far as setbacks with variances. It was approved before as far as this space. It's just it's just some minor variances here that we're looking at. So if there's any further debate. I'm not seeing any. I will call for the vote, which is to approve. Calling for the vote. So we've got all hands came up. Yep. So unanimous. Carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we have A 2025-026, 250 Frederick Street. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and staff recommendation, please.
Mr. Chair, I have a point of order on this application. We already have addressed this back in July. There are no substantive changes between the motion that was turned down in July, and in my opinion, this should not even be on the agenda. There are no changes. So at this point, Mr. Chair, as a point of order, I'm going to move that this application be removed from the agenda.
Appreciate your comments there. Following just as far as this process we have here with the agenda, I'm going to allow the staff to, yeah. So well, I appreciate that though, as far as, if I can lean on the Madam Secretary here, we have a motion on the floor. I can open up for a second as far as just not having this on the agenda. I'm not sure what to do here, so looking for your guidance.
Yes, you would still need a seconder, and I believe 2/3 of the committee to vote in favor. I can double check that for you, but I believe you should hear from staff some additional information on why it's even on the agenda today.
Thank you. So I agree that this application was before, a similar application was before the committee in July 2024. This is a new application and not a reconsideration of a past decision. The application does contain new information. It's being represented by a new agent, planning justification report. So there is new information for the committee to consider, not a reconsideration of a past decision. There's nothing in the Planning Act or in any other legislation that would prevent the committee from considering this application for minor variance.
Thank you. So if I can ask you, city staff, then to introduce the matter then, if you don't mind.
Mr. Chair, I think I had a motion on the floor, and we've heard from staff. Now, do we can have to have a seconder or no one? And if I can make a comment, I've been on this committee, this is my 19th year, and when an application is turned down, the applicant has 3 options. They can walk away, they can change the application substantively, not just a minor rewrite, or they can take it to the OLT. And if it's turned down at the OLT, I guess they can take it to divisional court, I believe it is. So I have made a motion, and I think it's now up to this committee to either second it or let it die on the order paper.
And through the chair, just for the sake of procedure, I do have to confirm what is required for the committee if we do want to remove that from the agenda. So what I would suggest is perhaps parking this, moving on to the next application, and then I will just confirm if we can just remove from the agenda if there's a seconder, and in favor to also vote to remove from the agenda. Does that make sense?
So if I understand correctly, you want to sort of set this aside and we'll deal with the other 2 applications.
All right. I just want to confirm procedure for removing from the agenda.
Okay, I'm good with that.
All right.
Yeah, if that's okay, Member McCall, Member Bob. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to step on your toes. I just want to hear the new information from city staff, and I do appreciate you made a motion, so I didn't mean to ignore it or anything. I just wasn't sure what to do here.
It is the first time I've ever seen anything like this, and as I said, I've been around for a while. It doesn't give me pleasure to have to bring this to the attention of the committee, but I think it's important that this be addressed, and I'm more than willing to let Ms. Mills investigate this a little further, because if we're going to do it, we got to do it right, and that's all I got to say for now. So I guess staff suggestion is we move on to the other 2 applications and then come back to this.
Cool. I'm happy with that if you are, and then that way we can do things the right way. So,
yeah,
and I didn't mean to overlook before what you were doing there. Okay. Excellent.
Well, my understanding is if this is turned down, you can change it and reapply. You can walk away, or you can take it to the OLT. If it's turned down at the OLT, the only thing you have now, there are probably lawyers in the room, if it's turned down at the OLT, then you go to divisional court. That's probably quite up the ladder. So I think for now, we should take the advice of our Madam Secretary, and we should move on to, I guess it would be Carson Drive and Chicopee Park, and then come back to this as the remaining
Yeah, so I appreciate your comments. We're going to move this and as part of the back of our agenda here, deal with those two other applications. We'll come back and we'll hear from you and we'll hear from the opposition, and we'll deal with that then. At that point, have more information of what we can and can't do. But for now, we'll just move along into the agenda. And yeah, we're not, we'll talk about this one later, essentially, in our meeting. But for now, we'll move along to B, 2025-006, 142 Carson Drive. So we're 142 Carson Drive. If we can ask the planning coordinator to introduce the application as well as the staff recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is the first consent application of the morning, or I guess afternoon now. 142 Carson Drive, application for consent to create a new lot on Carson. The existing detached dwelling is proposed to remain. Staff have reviewed the consent in light of provincial, regional, and city policies, finds that it meets all of those, and is recommending approval subject to a number of conditions.
Thank you for that. If I can ask for the agent or applicant to introduce themselves, please, and then let us know if you review the staff report and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation, please.
Sonia Koffler, agent, as well as Monica Sever, agent, power of attorney for the owner.
Thank you. And are you in support of the staff recommendation?
Yes, we are.
Thank you for that. Are there any parties in opposition that'd like to make oral submissions? Seeing none, members of the committee, do you have any questions for the agent that is here today? Seeing none, any questions for city staff? Seeing no questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is very straightforward. And so I'm going to move that this be approved as per the staff report with the 12 conditions.
Thank you for that.
Which are all pretty standard.
Thanks, Member Bob. If I can get a seconder, Member Marco. Floor is open for debate. If I'm seeing no debate, I will call for the vote, which is to approve. All those in favor? Unanimous? Carried. Good luck.
Many thanks.
Next, we have B 2025-007 and B 2025-008 and A 2025-027, 11A, 11B, and 13 Chicopee Park Court. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and the staff recommendation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a unique application, 2 applications for consent and 1 for variance. There are currently 3 lots on Chicopee Park Court. The applicant is looking for lot additions to slightly reconfigure the sizes of these 3 lots, and this is to facilitate the construction of a semi-detached dwelling with additional dwelling units, and the other lot would be for a single detached dwelling with 2 additional dwelling units, so a triplex. The variances that you see for 13 Chicopee Park Court are for the proposed triplex. They require the lot width of 10.5 meters instead of 8, it has 8 meters instead of 10.5 meters. It's going to have 2 parking spaces instead of the minimum required 3, and a rear yard setback of 7.2 instead of the required 7.5. So in relation to the variances for the proposed triplex, staff have reviewed these in light of the 4 tests. The Planning Act finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval. With respect to the consent applications, as discussed, they're really lot additions, just to reconfigure the sizes of the lots, so to facilitate that semi-detached dwelling with additional dwelling units. And staff have reviewed the 2 consent applications in light of provincial, regional, and city policies, and is recommending approval subject to the minor variance coming into effect and to a number of other conditions. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd now like to invite the agent or applicant to come forward. And I ask if they introduce themselves, please, and whether they've reviewed the staff report, and if they're in support of the staff recommendation, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Mounsey. I'm the CEO of Urban Insights Incorporated. My practice is focusing on urban intensification and development approvals. I've had 26 years of planning experience, including 4 years in the past at the City of Kitchener. I've read the city's planning report and in full support of the recommendations. Thank you, and I have a brief presentation to follow.
Thank you for that. Are there any members that in the gallery that are in opposition? No. So seeing none, well, I'll invite you then to make that presentation if you like at this time before I open up the floor for questions. That's okay, Ryan.
Thank you, Chair Santos, members, committee members, and Madam Chair, Secretary. Can the presentation be presented or uploaded? I emailed them in the other day.
Sorry, my apologies. I'm not aware of a presentation. However, at Committee of Adjustment, we do not permit presentations. I believe you gave us printed copies, so that's what the committee members will refer to as you speak.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Okay, hard copy, old school. What I'll walk you through is that the applications, I'm not going to repeat what the city staff have provided for context, but there's a new provincial planning statement that's in place. And as part of that PPS is that we're coming in under the new rules of the City of Kitchener for ADUs. And what we used to call fourplexes and triplexes are now semi-detached and singles with ADUs. And what we're coming in with the justification is that the lot reduction is necessary to fit and to comply with the 10.5 meter lot frontages for the semi-detached units. They comply with all the setbacks and they comply with the parking requirements. The remnant lot, which is a single detached unit, has 3 minor variances. I would highlight to the committee, what was not noted is that this went through a very detailed zoning occupancy review process. It's almost like a mini site plan process to review the technical details. And we're coming back with the variances supported by staff with this application. There is transit nearby, and we believe that this serves an important need of providing housing choice. And across the road, there is semi-detached units and a whole series of walk-up apartments in the neighborhood. We believe that this project will fit in the neighborhood, and we provided conceptual renderings that you'll see in the package that illustrates how this project will fit into the neighborhood. There was an extensive planning background study that was provided with this application, and I turn it over to the committee for a decision on these minor variances, which I believe with 26 years are minor in nature.
Yeah, thank you for that. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for the agent here? So just opening up the floor for questions of the agent, if anyone has any. Mayor Marco?
Yeah, just for clarification, for those 2 fourplexes, is the building already there? Are there foundations already in place, or are we severing before foundations have been built?
Through you, Chair, there's an existing home on the property, And so the first order of business is to demolish the existing home and to work through the demolition process. That will happen assuming that there is a level of support for the applications to adjust the lot lines, to move ahead with a building permit process to create the new units on the 3 modified lots.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the agent? Any questions for city staff from committee members? Seeing none, so then I'll look for a motion, please. We'll need a motion, guys, for this one, if you have no further questions. Member Bob?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll jump in. I've already had a lot to say today, more to come. So there's no objections to this. It's fairly straightforward. It is a complicated application, but I'm satisfied that this will go ahead. Maybe not totally seamless, but it'll go ahead. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Thank you for that motion. I appreciate it. Looking for a seconder. Member Maria, I'll open it up for debate now. Mayor Marco.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I just hope that the application, or that the applicant gets the foundations in the right place so that they don't have to deal with that mess. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's super straightforward. It looks like a complicated one, but there's enough work here and conditions in place that things should be carried out in the right way. And yeah, it looks like an interesting project, and I hope it goes well. So I'm in favor. I'm willing to call the vote and go from there. So all those in favor? Unanimous, so carried. Good luck.
Thank you, committee members and chair. And staff.
So, one final item here on our agenda, if I'm correct. I think we've got that. We're just going now back then to 250 Frederick Street.
So we do have legal in attendance to provide advice. However, that would require the committee to pass a motion for an in-camera meeting to receive solicitor-client advice. So if I can please have a member of the committee put that motion on the floor, second it, and vote on it.
Cool. So yeah, we'll look for a motion to go in camera then. Member Bob?
Seeing as I started this forest fire, I'll make the move that we go in camera to receive legal advice.
Seconder? Member Marco, all those in favor? Carried. We'll go in camera then. All right, welcome back. We were just in camera, so we need a motion to get out of camera. Member Amanda, a seconder. Member Marco, all those in favor to come out of camera? Unanimous, carried. So we're back on our agenda here. We had one outstanding item, A 2025-026, 250 Frederick Street. If I can invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and the staff recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a new minor variance application for 250 Frederick Street. There are two minor variances before you this morning to permit a parking requirement of 117 parking spaces instead of the minimum required 140, and to permit 8 visitor parking spaces instead of the minimum required 28. This is to facilitate the development of 4 additional dwelling units in the existing building. There are currently 108 units in there now for a total of 112 units. I would note that these variances are to bylaw 85-1, so our old zoning bylaw that has been in effect for over 40 plus years. I would note that the property, if it were to come into the new zoning bylaw, it is slated for an amendment in the near future. The parking requirement would be much less than the 140. It's 124 parking spaces would be required in the new bylaw, and they're providing 117. So they would become much closer in parking compliance in the new zoning bylaw. Just background information for the committee. So staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests in the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4, and is recommending approval.
Thank you for that. If I can ask the agent or the applicant to step up to the microphone, introduce themselves, please, for the committee, and if you have reviewed the staff report, and whether you're in support of the staff recommendation.
Good afternoon, Committee of Adjustment members, Chair, staff, Madam Secretary, and neighbors. My name is Ryan Mounsey. I'm a professional planner of 26 years. I am CEO of Urban Insights Incorporated. I have 4 years experience at the City of Kitchener and over 1.5 years experience at the Region of Waterloo as Manager of Affordable Housing Development. I come to you today with a brief presentation that is in support of the staff recommendations. A planning report was prepared along with a traffic study as well, parking study, excuse me, in support of the application. I'd be happy to walk through the presentation quickly if there's time that allows that.
Thank you. We'll open it up now for parties in opposition, and then we'll come back afterwards to your presentation if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Chair Santos.
Thank you. So now I invite parties in opposition to make oral submissions. So I see you already have someone there. If you can introduce yourself, please. And yeah, we'll wait to hear from you.
I'm Lisa Baczynski, and we were here last year for the exact same information, and it was refused the last time. So there's no need for any parking to be added because we don't have enough anyways. Visitors parking, there is maybe 6 at the back, and they're all taken up by people who do not live in the building, as in being on the lease. They're parked back there taking up spots. There's a garbage dumpster in the back that's been there for well over 1 year, taking up 3 spots, which doesn't leave many for anybody else to come and visit, like my mother or my brother or anybody's mother or brother. And as for 4 new units being built up top on the 18th floor, there's no need, because stuff's not going to be done right, because there's going to be more leaks, more water damage done. And, you know, visitor spots are at a premium right now. So more apartments equal less parking for visitors and residents.
Thank you. Would anyone else here to speak?
Hi, can you hear me? My name's Chris Wilson. I'm a resident of 250 Frederick. I've been there for about 10 years now. I used to be disabled. Last time I was in, I came in with oxygen. I've since had a double lung transplant. Things are going well. One of the reasons I mentioned that is because as being a disabled senior, I find it very difficult to get around the city. There are bylaws, parking spaces, accessibility provisions for me in this city, but where I live, there are none. I've received parking tickets in the visitors' parking because I've had an emergency to get into my unit. I think that's unfair. I've sat in front of bylaw hearings in tears because it wasn't my fault that I'm disabled. And it's not the owner's fault that I'm disabled either. The owner has an investment. He's got a lot of money tied up, from what I understand, in this property. There are a lot of units. He wants to add 4 more to increase his income. And rightfully so, he should be able to do that. I agree with that 100%. But he's carrying with him something that's rather unusual, and those are the residents that live there, the residents that live in that building. And there are a lot of apartments in there. Currently, there's about 8 parking spots for visitors that are designated in the back of the building, and that's all. It falls short. It falls very, very short of the requirements of those tenants. What are the requirements that I'm talking about? I'm talking about quality of life. I'm talking about enjoyment of your rental property. There's a Residential Tenancies Act, which is spelled out to protect us. And I don't like to bring that up because I don't want to crisscross. I don't want to crisscross zoning and other laws that are on the table. There's a lot of different avenues to be able to address the building owner's problem. He doesn't want to address them. He doesn't want to address the other avenues. In the last time that we went through this, it was mentioned that the planning department needed to go back to the drawing board because there's a problem in Kitchener with parking. On my word, okay, the most I've ever had to wait for an open spot on the street, so God help me, is an hour and a half. Driving around a 4-block radius around where I live. Now, of course, I was disabled at the time, and I have to be 4 blocks, which I had to buy a walker to do. Most of the people living in this place, 250 Frederick, are senior, about 25 to 30% disabled, and they depend on their vehicles. There's no place to park for my sister, for my mom, for my uncle, for my brother, especially not overnight. Those little 8 spaces are full. For 3 months, there was a frozen mattress stuck to the pavement on one of them. There's a garbage dumpster. There's no parking signs. No parking in a visitor's parking spot. I'm like going, what the heck is going on here? There's rules. There's a control box on the city plan. A control box is put there to show tolerance. That's what a control box does. The city plan, the site plan, has a control box, and that control box clearly states that the owner agrees to develop and maintain the site in compliance with the plan. That means he's got to follow the rules of the plan. This owner has not done that, and he's not doing that. He's not providing adequate parking. You guys want to put more, you want to pack more people in there. Well, you will decide whether or not, I'm not going to say you want to, I'm going to say you will decide. The owner wants to pack more in to increase his income. But we're saying it takes away from our livelihood. It takes away from what we're already missing because in 2014, the Committee of Adjustment already cut us out of what's required. What is required, right? Where does that number come from? Required. What's required? Is it pulled out of the sky by the planning department? Did you guys just make that up? What's going on? The numbers changed, new bylaw, okay. The numbers changed, so it's not 140. Whatever it is, it's short. It's short. And that directly affects the livelihood of the tenants that come with the building. It's part of the residents. The residents, key word, residents, from what I understand. This is how I understand it. You have a heck of a job to do. I don't want it. You can have it. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your comments. And happy to see you're doing better than last year.
You remember me last year with the oxygen? I had to apologize. And this time around, I'm going to apologize for shaking because I'm on medication that gives me tremors. I'm shaking like a leaf over here.
Well, thank you for your comments,
Normally, I'm a
Chris.
calm person.
Are there any other members or people here in the committee who'd like to, or the gallery, pardon me, I can't even speak anymore. Anyone else in the gallery that would like to make any oral submissions? But please have it be new information and be different from what we've heard before. Okay? 1 second.
Yes, Mr. Chair, seeing I'm the one who started this firestorm, I'll jump in and say, first off, good to see you again. As one, I've just had a hip replaced, so as one disabled senior to another, good to see you up and moving around. Good to see you haven't lost your passion and drive. But I have one question. When this notification came out, how many people in your neighborhood noticed that they had, was a reapplication or a new application concerning this very same property? Do you,
Because the sign was placed in a snowbank.
yeah, I thought there might be something like that. Mr. Chair, this is a complicated one. And I think in fairness to all the people, the applicant, owner, and the adjacent neighbors, I think this, and I'm suggesting that there may have been more. The application as submitted, I don't, there was, I'd have to verify that. But at this point, Mr. Chair, I think we need a deferral so we can make sure that the neighbors are aware that this is coming back to the Committee of Adjustment. And so I guess my previous motion died on the floor, so I'm making another motion that this be deferred so that the neighborhood can make themselves aware of what has changed. That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
And sorry, through the chair, could I also just confirm a specific time to which this should be deferred?
1 month.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the opposition had a question for me.
The grounds for the request for the deferral, you state, are to allow the neighborhood to participate.
Yes.
If I can interrupt though too, like due process was followed for this application. We were made aware of that though, and anything else happened, all the other applications, that process happened. I think the only thing that might be a little bit different is that something similar was brought last year, and there might be some confusion in terms of being the same decision again, but this is a new application. So I think you're asking for a deferral just because of the assumption that this was very similar from last year, but it is in fact a new application.
There is some confusion. I am aware, yes, that this is a new application with additional information. I'm not sure that the general public is aware that this is a new application with new information. So I think it's important that our gentleman friend here, who's Still shaken, but good to see you up on your feet. I think you folks need to go out and notify the rest of your neighborhood that this is not the same application coming forward. It's a similar one, but it's a new application with new information. And the staff report is available on the city's website and maybe available from the planning department. You need to make sure everybody knows. And that's why I think a deferral is the best choice at this time. Give you a chance to ramp up, gives the applicant a chance to address maybe some of the concerns that have been brought forward through this committee and maybe directly.
If that's agreed to by the rest of the committee.
We're gonna just, excuse me, Chris, we're just gonna try.
I think I know what you're saying, but I'm going to suggest you save that for next month.
If you just hang tight for a bit, Chris, we're just gonna have a motion on the floor here, or we have a proposed motion. I'll need to wait for a seconder before dealing with that, okay? Just to stay here on track and in order, if that's okay. So Member McCall has tried to make a motion here. We need a seconder. Mayor Marco, you second that motion? Okay. If Marilyn, can I ask you for your help here a little bit for a second?
I know. Could they hear me? Yeah.
Excellent. So we have a mover and a seconder for a deferral for 1 month. So we're now in debate, but there are people here that took their time to be here. So we've heard from the opposition. Just want to hear, because what we're trying to decide right now is on a deferral. If I could just lean on the agent here, if they would be open to a deferral of 1 month. For the reasons that Member Bob mentioned, though, too, in terms of knowing that this is, in fact, truly a new application with new information and new reports in here, if you'd be open to that.
Thank you, Chair and Committee, for the options and discussion. I think, and I want to be very sensitive to this, is that we prepared an application with information and followed due process. We moved through the steps with a city report that's coming to committee today. I've read the letter, and there's 59 signatories on this letter, 59. So I believe that people are aware of the application, and I would rather proceed to go with the presentation and for a decision, and afterwards you can decide to defer or not, but I would prefer to go with the presentation for a decision from the committee.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I know you can't speak for all the signatories, though, too, but if I can lean on to the opposition, would you be open then to a deferral of this agenda item?
Just want to be very mindful. The tenants of 250 Frederick, a lot of them work and they have to take time off work to be here, so I'm quite unsure if they would be, even willing to do the deferral or be able to attend the next one. So while you vote on that, just make sure to be mindful of that.
And just to be clear, though, too, you don't have to be here for your voice to be heard. We read all the letters and the emails that are submitted. They are part of our agenda package, and they are considered. So beyond just being here physically present, emails that are opposed, we do read them, and we do take them into consideration, though, as well. You don't physically have to be here, though. Ryan?
Thank you, Chair Santos, and to the committee and to the neighbors. The thesis of this proposal is one of planning and planning law, and the new information that's going to be presented is focused on getting housing and housing to market, adding more supply. A deferral will add 2 months to the process by bumping to the next meeting, then waiting for the deferral process. So in terms of that 2-month bump out of a process, and mindful of the previous comments about trying to schedule a new date for a similar decision, I would prefer to go today. Thank you.
Yeah, not to mention the tenants would be basically sitting in limbo waiting for those 2 months. So yeah, just be mindful of that for sure.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to note that if the applicant's representative is stating that due process and planning law, they're not currently adhering to the site plan by not allowing tenants to park in the visitor parking spots that they're showing on the site plan. That's the existing site plan. You have photographs in your email showing that. So I'm not sure why he's so concerned about due process or planning law that they can't observe. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Before, I'm just going to go to my committee member here, Chris.
Thank you. So in my mind, the sort of primary issue is the deferral, and then depending on the decision there, then it would move on to sort of substantive planning matters. I take your concern, Member McCall. I guess I'm just not necessarily hearing from the opposition an overwhelming concern that the individual tenants aren't represented here. I know there was an offhand comment about the sign in the snowbank, but I'm wondering if maybe the applicant, I'm not sure, I'm actually not familiar with the process for the City of Kitchener. Does the applicant pick up the sign and then place it, take photos, send it back, that sort of thing? So just wondering if you can comment on that, just make sure everything was, T's were crossed, I's were dotted.
Yep, good question. So staff takes the responsibility of taking the sign to the site and installing it themselves. It was obviously very challenging during the weather conditions that we experienced. We haven't experienced winters like that in a long time. So I'm confident that the staff person put the sign in. Unfortunately, with all the snow, I'm just not sure it could remain for the entire period.
I'm wondering, and I was looking through the package, usually there is a picture of the sign. Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe I missed it in the volume of paperwork here, but if it is there, perhaps you could direct us to it.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, there's no picture in the current staff report. The staff person that wrote the report was not in the office for the entire time. They had to take a leave, so there's confusion as to the preparation of the new staff report. So unfortunately, it's missing. I apologize, but we do take the responsibility of putting the sign in ourselves.
Okay. Unfortunately, it's not there. I guess I would put it to the opposition. Like, I'm hearing sort of two sides of the same coin. Perhaps there's people who would be here that are not, but are here that don't want to come back. So I'm wondering if maybe we can get some sort of consensus from the opposition of sort of where you're landing on that issue.
A lot of people are disabled. They don't want to have to come downtown, try and find a parking place, and fight with parking, and then fight with their walkers and do all this. We've been dealing with this nonsense for over a year.
I totally appreciate that.
And I don't know whose signatures he got to say that this was okay, but nobody in the building signed anything. Like, I don't know who he's got his signatures from, because there's nobody in the building that would sign that and agree to having 4 more units and take away from our visitor parking.
Just for a point of clarity, I think the agent was saying that there's 59 or over 50 people in opposition. So his argument is that people are aware that this application is,
Okay,
is before
sorry,
us.
that's my-
So not
my
necessarily in
misunderstanding.
favor, but they're opposed, but that they're aware of this application.
My
Correct?
fault, my
Okay.
misunderstanding.
Just for clarity.
This
Chris?
list has been carried forward.
Turn on your microphone, please.
It was included in the previous,
Microphone, Chris?
oh, I'm sorry. This list of people on the petition has been carried forward, and it's been carried forward from the previous decision that was made, that was entered as evidence in the last one. There are, and more than 90%, 95% of the people on there are tenants. You'll see the apartment number and everything's listed, contact information and everything on the petition. That it's not a new list, and I'm thinking that our friend over here is under the impression that this list was just gathered based on the last notice. It was not.
So I think we're
you
talking
were
about a few
right,
different,
Senior Counsel.
Chris, I appreciate what you're having to say. I think we're talking about a few different things here. But as it stands right now, we've got a motion here on the floor that's for a deferral for 1 month. We had a good amount of debate. We've heard from the opposition. We've heard from the agent. So in the interest of moving things along now, I'm going to look to call the vote for the deferral then. So it's deferring this for 1 month. So all those in favor of the deferral? We have 1 in favor of the deferral. All those opposed of the deferral? 4. So no deferral. So as a result, we'll carry along. I've heard from members of the opposition. Anyone that I haven't heard from want to make an oral submission? Anyone else? Okay. I'll now turn then to the agent if you wanted to make a few words or comment from what you heard.
Thank you, Chair Santos and committee members and neighbors. Please understand that I'm coming at this for the 4 units, and I'm hearing with what you're saying. I also agree that there's processes to deal with existing conditions, and I want to decouple the issues between the 4 units and the ongoing issues. There is a site plan process and a management process that can be followed up in terms of compliance, and that can be made by a complaint. And so there is a process to deal with illegal or improper things on site. And so I want to separate out that issue from what I just heard right now. I don't want to get into the issue of Landlord Tenancy Act, but if there's issues with the developer and the property owner and management, there is a process for that. And that process takes a long time and is difficult, but that is the process. It's not the Committee of Adjustment process. And what I'm here today, and I'll just highlight a few points in my presentation if I may, I won't belabor them. And I'll just check my phone here for my presentation deck. I learned that they're just hard copies, so my apologies. Next time I'll put
No problem. And for your benefit, Ryan, we do have your slides here, and we
Yes.
have looked at them. We received them this morning, and we did take a look.
Okay. I'll be very quick just with a couple highlight points. I won't go through each slide, Chair Santos, if you'll entertain that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. As an education component, and I'm coming here in terms of me coming on the file, I'm a planner that comes in behind with a designation to say is 4 units acceptable. And that's why I'm coming in on this application, which was not the case before. We had a parking study that was prepared that said the site will function and the 4 new units will not add strain to the existing parking supply. And that is a technical issue by a transportation engineer, even though there may be existing issues. The owner will not take on tenants with new parking because there is no parking. And so the issue is the variance for the reduction of the parking spaces, and that adds 3.7% increase in density. As staff noted, there's going to be a change in zoning, but what has changed is 2 pieces. There's a new provincial planning policy that supports intensification along transit routes, and this is a planned transit route on Frederick Street with transit service with a stop right in front of the door. I'd also highlight that this site is located 150 meters from the PMSTA, which is the protected major transit station areas. If this were located 150 meters over, it would require 0 parking. So while I understand there's parking issues right now, I'm not fully aware. The parking study did not pick that up. But the issue of the reduction of the 4 spaces is supported from a planning perspective. The official plan that talks about renovations and intensification. This is a high-density site, and we're looking to convert underutilized space. The issue for this application is to get more units to market and to use an unutilized space. And so I'm going to close right there because I think those are the pertinent facts. And simply to say in closing that that we're asking the committee, based off the city's planning report, my planning report, I hope you read my planning justification report, I don't know if you read that or not, and the transportation report, the parking study report, to say this is intended to come in for 4 units, and this is minor. And that's what we're coming in at. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. And now open the floor for questions. I'll lead things off, though. So I don't think the committee has any issues. I would imagine, I'm not speaking for them, but 4 units doesn't seem like a big deal. But on paper, I think the challenge is going from, would be 28 parking spaces from visitors to 8. But when the building was currently built, it was 0, right? So I think that's the biggest issue we have right now is parking. And it seems the biggest concern also from the opposition is visitor parking, access to parking. So I'd like to focus more on that. And as it currently stands, there's 8 parking spots, correct, for visitors?
Yes, Chair Santos, and can I provide a comment on that, or let me wait?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. This building was approved with existing conditions, and it is an existing condition building. The 8 visitor parking spaces are legal and existing. The new zoning bylaw, which is 85-1, requires the 27, 28 visitor parking spaces after the fact. So while there may be a disjoint between the zoning bylaw, today's bylaw, the building was approved with that in place. And the new zoning, as we heard today, will draw that to be much closer of about 6 or 7 spaces. We don't want to wait for the new zoning bylaw because we want to get the 4 units in and there won't be any parking. So I'm not here to address the existing site plan application other than there's an existing site plan, there's existing operations, there's a compliance process that if there are problems, then we can deal with the city and clean that up. But those 4 spaces will not add to a parking problem.
Thank you for that clarification. If I can just follow up with staff regarding that with the new zoning bylaw, if that is in fact the case.
Yes, so as noted, these properties are in our old bylaw, 85-1. So when the new bylaw comes into effect, the parking requirement for the dwelling units will be 124, which is close to the 117 that's provided. The visitor parking will actually be 12 and not 28. So the new bylaw will only require 12 visitor parking spaces. They're providing 8. So when the new bylaw comes into effect, this property will be more in compliance with the bylaw. I guess the parking provision will be more in compliance with the bylaw when it comes into effect. So the applicant will have the opportunity to apply for a variance to the new zoning bylaw for the parking reduction at such time if they don't get their approval today.
Just looking for that clarity, because from 28 to 8 sounds very significant, and from 12 to 8, it seems a little bit different, and this new zoning bylaw potentially could take effect in July, right?
This property is not under the appeal mechanism. It's not in the protected major transit station area, but it is up for review within the next year or so.
Thank you. And you wanted to make a point, Ryan?
2 quick points, Chair Santos and to committee members. A year or 2 from today is a long time for the 4 units, and so we'd prefer to have a decision in support for the 4 units today versus waiting, and there could be appeals under that process that would further delay it. And secondly, I don't want to miss and understate the importance of the new provincial planning statement that came in October 2024. It wasn't highlighted in the staff report as a primary focus, but I would suggest that all official plans and zoning bylaws shall be consistent with the new PPS. I'd ask for staff's interpretation on that interpretation of my analysis, and to say that generally the province supports intensification on transit routes. Would that be fair? Thank you.
Yes, Ryan makes correct points in terms of the new PPS and the direction, and also the point the province recently required zero parking in our protected major transit station areas. We don't have the ability to acquire any parking spaces in those areas. This site is about 150 meters from that, so the line slightly drawn a different way would tell a different story.
Just one question for staff. Applicant mentioned that the additional 4 units wouldn't require parking, so someone using transit or biking or what have you. Is there any mechanism on your end to make sure there's compliance there?
So through the site plan approval process, we would ensure that the visitor parking provided, the barrier-free parking, the bicycle parking spaces are key in these redevelopments, and making sure that they're provided. So that's part of this new site plan application. That's before staff right now. Staff can't approve the new site plan until the variance is approved. So we can't enforce anything under that new site plan until it gets approval.
Any other questions? If you have something new to say.
One last thing I would like you to consider is I do agree that we do need more units. It's part of the official plan, and I do very much appreciate that, but there are already many units in the building unoccupied, so 4 new units on paper is good, but it's very unclear whether these units would be able to be occupied. So just consider that in your decision-making. That's all.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions from my committee members, I'll wait for a motion.
Excuse me. Add one more comment.
Is it something new, Chris?
Yeah. I agree with the housing shortage. I believe there is one. We need more housing in the area. That's what the government has been here to protect us against. What I want you to imagine, please, is looking out your window out of the front of the building and watching a grandmother who's disabled drag her grocery cart from her car through a snowbank into her apartment because she can't stop in the visitor parking because there's no room. There's no room. It's designated visitor parking. Imagine what that looks like. I think of my mom, God rest her soul. I think of my mom struggling the way that little old lady is working down there. I want to run out and give her a hand, but I can't.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I appreciate your comments.
That's it.
Thank you. So I'll wait for a motion. Member Amanda.
I'll table a motion to approve in accordance with the staff report.
Thank you. Need a seconder? You don't have to vote in favor. We just need to have the motion on the floor for debate and have a vote. So even if you second it, it doesn't mean that you approve it. We just need it to be put on the floor. Member Maria seconds. So it's now open for debate. Yeah, this is an extremely challenging one. Member Bob makes good points as well, where this came last year, came back, but with new information, with a new report. What they're asking for is essentially the same. I don't think the 4 units is the issue, it's just parking. The challenge is an existing building, and it already has limited parking, and it's just solidifying more limited visitor parking spaces. So that's the big challenge we have here. The other thing that is always a struggle that I experience here in this committee is that our hands are tied here, that we're here for a committee of adjustment, and not issues with landlord-tenant board or other existing conditions. So I do hear and appreciate and care for a lot of things that the opposition and residents and tenants say, but we're limited what we can do here with the committee. It just falls outside of our control and our purview. We're here to deal with minor variances, and that's why I was asking before just about parking, where from 28 to 8 seems very significant, but eventually under that the new bylaws we're potentially looking at from 12 to 8, which then does feel a very, very minor. In the interim, we'd be holding up development and project of with this building, and hopefully money being spent will improve conditions of the building. So that's where I always have a tough time with these decisions. Is just there's obviously existing conditions with the building that are not right, but we're not able to deal with them, and it's very challenging for me. I wish we and I could help more with that, but we can't. What we're here to do is just see if it meets the 4 tests, and if these variances are in fact minor, and that's what we're here to do. Marco.
Thank you, Chair. Is it okay if I ask the applicant a quick question?
Sure thing.
So the site looks fairly tight. Would it even be possible to add additional parking?
Through you, Chair. Unfortunately, no. And I think as we go through the site plan review process, we'll find ways to see if we can maximize it. But based off my review, I don't think we can even fit one more new space. The issue is one of compliance, and the site plan agreement will probably include conditions, and I'd ask staff to say whether it be conditions in terms of making sure that the site complies with the approved site plan, and I'll work with the owner to make that very clear in terms of cleaning up the site and with the 4 units and site plan process to make sure that that's in compliance. And so that's my understanding of the process, and I turn it over to staff if I could. Thank you.
Yes, the site plan approval process gives staff some authority to make sure that parking is there, it's provided, it's signed, it's available. With any new application in dwelling units, and I think you've heard this from previous applicants, where they're proposing new dwelling units, there's no parking, it's very clear in the lease, there's no parking associated with the unit. And it does allow that unit to be rented at a cheaper, more affordable price if there's no parking bundled with the unit. So parking is always unbundled with these types of rental properties to give the owner flexibility to rent a parking space with that unit or not. But we do put some cautions and notes on the site plan as to the parking number and parking units, and provision of that parking is enforced with the site plan application.
Thank you. And just to be clear, as it currently stands, how many visitor parking spots are at the building right now?
7.
So they'd be getting 1 additional visitor parking spot, correct?
My understanding is that that's the existing conditions today and is reflected in the site plan.
Any more debate? So we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? 3 in favor. All those opposed? 2. So that is carried. Passes.
Thank you, committee, staff, and neighbors for understanding. Thank you.
So it's next moving along in the agenda. One final item here. Adjournment. So we'll look for a motion. That was quick, Bob. Member Bob, a motion to adjourn, seconder. Member Marco, all those in favor? Lunchtime. Thank you, everyone.